SHOT Show 2015 with Spyderco. Mike Janik.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing, brother?
Doing well.
It's been a little while. I think the last time that we actually exchanged any kind of words was in the mid-90s at a SOF conference.
Yeah, still here in Vegas, but different venue back in the day.
We're rebreathing some of the air that we probably breathed in.
Yeah.
Unless it blew away in some of those winds. Very good. Well, listen, it's good to see you again. And thank you very much for making a little time to talk about some new products with Spyderco.
My pleasure.
We'll have probably a little chat when we're done as well. But I'd like you to just, whatever you feel comfortable talking about as far as new product line.
Okay. Share a couple different knives with you. This is one of our new knives called the Shemp Bowie. One of the interesting things that Spyderco has done is we like to focus on ethnic designs, and Ed Shemp is a very, very talented custom knife maker, also a good friend of mine, and he has basically been charged with taking some of the traditional ethnic designs, a lot of the cultural designs and everything that you'll find around the world, and translating them into modern products.
I have a couple of his folders from a few years ago that are exactly what you're talking about.
So when you look at a lot of the stuff that he'd done previously, you had kukris, you had barongs, you had a lot of stuff that basically from other countries, other continents. So what we wanted to do was kind of come home to America and take the traditional Bowie knife and be able to present that so that you have a modern interpretation, a modern expression of the Bowie, but you have a lot of the same characteristics and features that you would identify with kind of the iconic version. So first of all, you look at the blade. You've got the clip point blade. There's, of course, lots of different types of Bowie knives. You have the Sheffield Bowies and everything else. When you go back to kind of the classic American Bowie, most people associate that with the clip point. So here we have a CPM S30V stainless steel blade. So crucible particle metallurgy steel, state-of-the-art steel that we ship to Taiwan to have this knife manufactured. You have
so the blade starts in the U.S., goes to Taiwan.
Exactly.
Heat treated.
Well, it's actually manufactured in Taiwan, but our Taiwan maker, a lot of people kind of raise their noses up at Taiwan and they say, oh, well, you know, it's not that well made. Our Taiwanese maker is awesome. The fit and finish of what they produce is every bit as good as anything that I've seen made in the U.S. And because of that, we make the investment to, instead of having them take materials that they can source locally, we ship U.S. materials to them.
Okay, so you're shipping the raw blanks to them and then they're producing.
Exactly.
And you're working with the same people that you probably have some long-standing relationship with, or at least a very good standing relationship.
Yes, they're awesome. The fit and finish of what they produce is every bit as good as anything I've seen in the U.S.
Absolutely.
So CPM S30V stainless steel, you have a high flat grind on here, so you have a full thickness spine, even though it's not a super thick blade. You have the strength of the spine here, but then you have a high flat grind, which gives it really good edge geometry. With the clip, it puts the point right on the center, so it has a very well-centered point, a good acute point, but it still has good strength as well. It's a liner lock mechanism, so you have a liner that locks the blade up, and the way that it's set up, that liner lock is actually near flush, and it's right down inside of this finger choil. Okay. So what it means is when you want to release that lock, you have to work at it. It has to be a conscious effort. It's not difficult, but it has to be purposeful, so there's no way that lock is going to give up. From this angle, you can also see the dovetail joint that is the joint between the brass bolsters and these scales, which are carbon fiber G10 laminate. So it's a carbon fiber top layer, G10 beneath that.
Oh, that's interesting.
So what you get is that carbon fiber look, but you also have the strength and the integrity of the G10 below it. And
yeah, because carbon fiber can be a little brittle when it's thin.
It can be,
yeah. Yep. Well, at least when it comes to pressure from the sides.
And with the laminate, we achieve a little bit of a cost saving, so we can kind of get to that point where we get a sweeter price point, make the knife more affordable. But what's nice is you have the brass bolsters, brass of course being traditional material, you have the traditional S guard that you'll see on Bowies, and that mated side by side with the carbon fiber, so you really get a kind of a cool synthesis of old school, new school.
Yeah, I like that.
The handle itself is a coffin shape, again, very traditional. It has a full thickness back spacer here, so what it does is it adds some weight to the butt end of it, so it gives it a really nice balance that balances right about at the index finger. So when you look at that ability to have a really lively feel of the knife, it feels like it's got that live feel in the hand. It's not like an inanimate object. What's really cool about it, and what's distinctive for a lot of Ed's designs, is the dropped handle. So when you look at the angle of the handle to the blade, what you end up with is something that allows you to grip it so that you have a natural wrist angle. And with the natural angle, it puts the point right on line with the forearm. You don't have to cam your wrist forward to be able to get the point lined up. And one of the things in traditional Bowie fighting, if I point this right at the camera, one of the things they'll do when they take the guard position is to actually make it so that the blade disappears, because all you see is the tip. You see it literally from the front. So you don't see it up this way, you don't see it down or sideways, either way. You want it to be so that they can't judge that distance. So when you go for that thrust, it's in your face immediately. And in fact, one of the traditional targets for traditional Bowie knife stuff is to thrust straight at the eyes. So there's no depth perception whatsoever. You never know that that's on top of it. What's cool about it too is not only that thrusting aspect, but with the dropped handle, now when you cut and you apply pressure, you're applying a lot more pressure because the blade has that dropped angle to it. So it's almost like when you're cutting with a kukri or something like that, where the angle between the handle and the blade allows it to apply more pressure and cut deeper along its entire length.
And you're also putting a little bit of pressure on the rear portion of the back of the blade when you had your thumb a little more forward.
Can. My preference is to have the thumb up here.
So you've got some additional stability and some additional pressure directly on the blade instead of there being a point of a bearing point of pressure against the pivot point.
Exactly. And for some people, if you prefer a saber grip, it's easy to come back here. It gives you a really nice purchase for a saber grip. That's perfect. For me, I prefer more of a Filipino grip, thumb forward. Doesn't really matter. It works perfectly well either way. If you're into reverse grip stuff, one of the interesting things with a reverse grip, this bites very deeply because now you've got that camming action of the wrist combined with that offset angle between the handle and the blade. So it allows you to really cut with lots of force, which is something that you can sometimes lose on reverse grip because you bang knuckles before you hit edge. In this case, the edge rides proud of the arc of motion of the arm. It has a deep pocket wire clip. I like the wire clips because it gives you some lateral flexibility on this. When you clip something into your pocket, if you bump into something, this allows you to have a little bit of flex. It's not going to spring the clip, and it is a deep pocket variety, so this thing literally disappears all the way down into the pocket. And it's just, for me, it's a really cool synthesis of old school, new school. One other thing I should mention about that dropped handle is that when you open it, it shortens the opening arc. You don't have to go a full 180 degrees. It actually is about 20 degrees short of that. So when you open it, you get a very positive opening. So if you're pulling this thing out under stress, you don't have to work as hard to get it all the way open.
Less necessity for more pivot, so to speak.
Exactly. Of course, you have the trademark Spyderco hole, gives you a really nice access, whether you're going left hand, right hand, makes the knife really ambidextrous as far as its operation. So this is one of my favorites of the new stuff, not only because I have such great respect for Ed Shemp, but also as a synthesis between old school and new school. I just think it doesn't get much better than this, and it's really cool to have the Ethnic series from Spyderco finally kind of come home and pay homage to something that is truly American.
Very good, and it's nice to see Ed still with you. I was not aware of a personal relationship that you had with him, but I personally appreciate his designs and again have several of his knives that you folks have made.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Next one I want to share with you, it looks like we actually have a duplicate of the same knife here, but what's interesting about this, it's called the reverse. And what it is, when you look at the ergonomics of the handle, in this case you see you have a finger groove here, you have this concave curve here. Obviously the hand would fit very nicely in this way. But when you think of those handle ergonomics, when you look at them on this knife, they're reversed. You see the edges face in different directions.
Right.
This is actually a collaboration between myself and Craig Douglas. Craig is also known as South Narc, and he is a former law enforcement officer, retired law enforcement, spent a lot of time undercover. He's also a very experienced martial artist, and his preference when it comes to knife tactics is what's called reverse edge. So the reverse edge, the ergonomics of the handle fit your hand very nicely this way, but the sharp edge actually faces back toward your body. So the primary tactics are based on being able to thrust and then using the back muscles to be able to pull the arm back and create a really powerful, devastating cut. Very devastating way to go as far as the tactics go. That's Craig's preference, and you notice when you grip the knife in this way, what you'll see is his Shivworks logo on the blade right here. Well, the way the knife is set up, by removing these screws, taking the handle scales off, and simply flipping them, you can achieve the opposite orientation. So again, the handle is set up the same way. It's far as my grip coming in here, but even though the ergonomics are the same, now the edge is facing out. My personal preference as far as application of the knife, either in reverse grip or in standard grip, is to have the edge facing away. My tactics are mostly based on the idea of biomechanical cutting, crippling somebody quickly to be able to take them out of the fight, create distance, and create safety.
Well, and Greg's philosophy may also be in hand with a law enforcement application of not only cutting but also trapping and controlling the person. That may, I have no idea, but that may be part of his
certainly
dynamic.
Aspects of that in that system. The original Piketty Tercia system that he studied relies a lot on that, and they do involve a lot of trapping and everything. But what's interesting about it, Craig and I have known each other for a number of years. I have great respect for what he does. He respects what I do, and we get along great.
Well, just because it's different doesn't mean you can't respect what the other guy does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But some people don't see it that way.
Well,
So
I know.
What's wild about it is we've had people who studied with both of us, and they'll come to one or the other of us and say, well, Craig does it totally different than what you do. You guys must not get along. And it's like, no, we get along great. And they try to see it as an either or, whereas Craig and I see it as, hey, it can be both.
It's a melding.
Right.
Yeah.
So he had the idea, wouldn't it be great if we could design one knife together that literally hit both ends of the spectrum that most people see that we've created. You do things one way, I do things the other way. They're diametrically opposed. But conceptually, we meet in the middle, and we did that with the reverse.
And so the interesting thing about this is these are not two knives. This is the same model knife with just basically the scales of the knife, the handles, reversed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what's great about it too, the sheath that I designed for this, it's a custom molded bolt-around sheath, and it doesn't matter which orientation you have, blade fits perfectly that way, and same thing with the opposite grip. So you can set this up any way you want. You don't have to do anything to the sheath to be able to get it to accommodate the different handle positions for the knife. The sheath has a G-clip attachment on it. The G-clip allows you to attach to either side of the sheath this way or either face of the sheath here. So if you want to set it up so that it's attached to the belt so that you come out and you're automatically in reverse grip or reverse edge, you can do that. You can also set it up for inside the waistband carry, cross draw carry, small to back, no matter where you want to put it, it's adaptable.
Strong, weak, however you want to do. You could flip it around.
If you want it as a weapon retention tool, so you want to support side carry so that you can retain a handgun, it's easy to configure for that. Literally what it gives you is one package that allows you to experiment and figure out what fits best for you. We wanted something really versatile, something that kind of gives you the best of all worlds. The best thing is, suggested retail price for this, $150.
I was just going to get to that. I was going to ask you, what are we looking at price point?
So $150, that's knife and sheath together. So these days, what that means is retail price $150. You're talking a street price of $100 or less.
Nothing to quote you on.
Well, when you look at good internet dealers and everything, that's typically the way that it works out. Typically you're going to be cutting about a third off of retail price to hit an achievable street price these days, and that's just the reality of what the internet has done and how current.
It's just the way it's just the way business is being handled, right?
Right. That's how things have evolved.
Now, what's price point on Ed Schimp's design?
This one here, price point is at $300. So
and again, that's $300 retail.
$300 retail. So again, when you look at the quality of what you're getting, the carbon fiber G10 laminate, the CPM S30V, all of these choices are made to try to hit an achievable price point. This is something that certainly has lots of tactical application, can be used as a daily utility knife, but it's also a great collector's piece because it has that pride of ownership aspect.
That's one of the nice things about Ed. When he designs something, it kind of goes both ways like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He hits that point where, is it for a collector, is it for a user? You kind of make that calculated effort, and in most cases with Ed stuff, it's so good, you decide to make the investment.
Somehow he balances that out just right.
He does.
Now, is there going to be a limited run of Ed's piece?
Right now, it's a full production item.
Okay.
We've just taken delivery on the first production run of these, so these are going to be hitting the street very soon. Of course, we're here at SHOT Show 2015. We're here, late January. You should see these shipping early February.
Okay.
So we have the first production run of these in stock. I feel that it's going to do really well, and it's going to be in the line, I hope, for many years to come.
And I imagine that you and Greg's piece there will be in the production lineup for quite some time.
Yeah, this one, we also just, these are actual production samples here. These just hit the ground as well. We're in the process of doing the production of the sheaths on these. As soon as I get back from shop, I have to write all the instructional paperwork that goes along with these. We should be packaging these up and starting to ship them probably late February, early March.
Any possibility or any thought to perhaps doing some type of a limited run with, say, some kind of a special scale like CF or carbon fiber or some other material that you might be able to toss into the lineup somewhere down the road?
It's a possibility. We certainly are always open to that type of exclusive thing or to a sprint run. But really, for example, the steel on this is CTS BD1. Okay, so this is also a US made steel from Carpenter Steel. So BD1, I would say that it's in the realm of like a 440C or slightly better metallurgically than 440C. And a lot of people, again, will look at that and say 440C, that's nothing special. The guy who's being cut by this is never going to know the difference.
He's never going to care.
So when they
his concern, that will be the least of his concerns.
Exactly right.
And if you're needing to use that to defend yourself, the specific steel that is in the knife is going to be the least of your concerns.
What I wanted when they asked me what steel do you want on this, I said I want something that is going to be very corrosion resistant because it's going to be carried close to my body. I'm going to sweat on it. It's going to be something that is going to be part of my everyday carry. And I want something that will take a good edge and can be easily maintained.
Right. Yeah,
so,
because let's face it, anything that you're carrying concealed, you might as well just toss it into a hazmat can or something,
sure,
instead of carrying it on your body that close. Because your body's going to do some nasty, nasty things
You're
to anything
going to
that's
sweat
metal.
all over it. It's going to be, it's going to be part of you all the time.
Right.
So I wanted something that was corrosion resistant, and also I looked at it, literally did a lot of the reverse engineering to figure out, okay, price point. If we were to bump this to CPM S30V, how would that affect the retail price? And what I wanted to do was get it to that point where if we could hit that street price of $100 for the guys who really want to carry this, for the guys who really need this and need to trust their lives to it, I want to make it affordable for them.
Well, and kind of going back to the last time that we had eye-to-eye contact in the mid-90s, I can empathize with the fact that sometimes a $100 knife is about all you can get.
Right.
And you need to be able to put these products and these tools into the hands of guys who can only afford something like that, where they've got a limited budget. So that's large kudos to you and your people for doing that.
Well, the guys out there putting their butts on the line for us. We owe it to them to give them the tools that will work.
Or the civilian, just the regular citizen who's just a good person that doesn't deserve to be attacked by somebody.
Right.
Absolutely. Mike, it was a pleasure talking with you.
My pleasure.
Maybe again touch base and tip a cold one here.
20 years later.
Well, yeah. Well, by then we won't like the taste of beer.
I don't think that'll ever happen.
Probably never happen. I'll tell you what, on a personal note, right now, do you have a favorite beer?
Favorite beer?
Or style? IPA?
I like dark beers.
Okay.
I'm not an IPA fan. It's a little bit bitter for me, so typically my go-to ends up being a Guinness.
Right.
But if I could find a good porter, I like porters. I'm not as much into stouts and stuff like that. 1554, which is a nice dark beer from Colorado. One of my personal favorites, if I can get that. But Black Butte Porter, also really good. Anything kind of in that realm. If light won't shine through it, I like it.
There you go. Beautiful. Well, listen, brother, you take good care and you have a safe trip home.
Thanks, brother. Stay safe.